Welcome to the Calmer Self podcast. I'm Nadine. Join me to learn how to connect with the calmer version of yourself. I'll share with you my tips and coping strategies for reducing feelings of stress, overwhelm and guilt so that you can live a productive life with ease and joy. And there'll be inspiration from other wellbeing therapists, experts in relaxation and fellow calm crusaders. Well, hello everybody. Today I have the great pleasure of talking to my good friend Trish Campbell. Now, Trish is the founder of Invibe, which she will tell you all about. She's a Reiki master teacher, helping people on their journey to finding self-love. And that is so beautiful. So welcome, Trish. I'm so pleased to be talking to you today.
Thank you so much for having me here, Nadine. I'm so honored.
Well, it's so lovely. And I know that we've got a lot of things in common, haven't we, with the Reiki and just helping people. This is what we do, isn't it? And everything. So I'd like to really start to ask you what your passion and your joy is and how you've come to be doing what you're doing. I know that you have a book, which we'll talk about later, but all of your, you really are passionate about helping people, aren't you? So if you can perhaps share about how you've come to that and what gives you joy and what is your passion about it.
Yeah, I mean, my passion is helping people and helping people remember why they came here, who they came here to be, and that we don't have to carry everything that we've experienced our entire life with us from day to day, and that we can let some things go. We can heal wounds because we all have wounds. You and I have had those conversations.
Oh yes, many.
Working with our inner child. And for me, sharing my experience, because I've lived that, I've gone back to my childhood and connected those dots, and understanding that when we do that, and that's why I want to help people do that if they're ready for that, because we are then able to come back and remember ourselves and to find love for ourselves. And that's really now what my work and what I want to do, and what I'm so passionate about, helping people find love for themselves, because that improves, it benefits all of our relationships in our life.
You're so right, aren't you? Because it is that self-love, self-care, whatever you want to call it, that a lot of people I know, and a lot of people I work with, they struggle with that. And it is, like you say, it's a process, isn't it? It's something that we can all learn to do, healing our wounds, like you mentioned earlier, that inner child work, which we've both done, and it's so valuable, isn't it? And still doing. I've got to be honest, it's still happening, isn't it?
It's always ongoing.
It is, isn't it? And I think from that point of view, it's very lovely, isn't it, that you just go like, this is what I've learnt, this is what I'm doing, and this is what I want to share with everybody. Because I think you're very similar to me in that way, that everything that you learn, everything that touches you, you just want to help other people with, don't you? So
right. Yeah. And I think through sharing our stories, I think it's important that we do that, because when we do that, we show other people that we're maybe going through some similar things. There might be some parallels, or that, people will know they're not alone. And we've gone through life, at least I know through my experience, feeling like I can't talk about not feeling so great, or not feeling, we always have to show up a certain way. And that's really where my journey began, when I was had the ending of a relationship, and really wanting to look at the truth of that. It's easy to blame the other person. It's always easy to do that and say, not my fault. But I really wanted to, I noticed a pattern of showing up and slicing off, I would say, parts of myself in order to fit in. And so really, and I noticed that in relationships, romantic relationships, family, at work, and other people, it really began when I was at work, and understanding that a lot of people maybe aren't so fulfilled, but nobody was really doing anything about it. So I saw a need for just having a conversation, putting it on the table and sharing it. And I believe when we do that, then other people feel comfortable to do that for themselves, and expressing it is the most healing thing we can do, because we've been taught to suppress it. And for me, that's what I've come to learn, is to just express it through words. That's where it helped. That's what came through for me was the book that I just wrote or published began with poetry, processing pain of that grief. And so we have these ways of expressing that we don't have to carry that with us anymore. And then we don't have to be operating from that wounded place in our life. And it's so much more, there's so much more joy, so much more natural joy when we do that. And life is just so much better when we're honest with ourselves.
You're so right. You're so right. But it is something that some of the things you said there, you've really hit on the points, haven't you? That we don't think that we can express. We get so used to, we're almost taught, aren't we, to just anything that happens to us, we push it away, plow on, we get on with things, don't we? And I think where you said, was it slicing a bit of ourselves off so we fit in? That's quite poignant saying that, because how many people can relate to that? We go, I don't matter, I just will fit in, I just will do what's expected of me. That is kind of how people live their lives, isn't it? So for you to realize that there's another way is a big thing, isn't it? And then to be brave enough, and I say brave quite carefully, because I think it takes a lot of courage, doesn't it, to actually go, well, I'm going to say what I want to say, I'm going to feel what I need to feel. That's big, isn't it? They do need to be brave for that. And actually then to take it a step further, to go, I'm going to be, again, I'm going to say brave again, be brave enough to show that to other people. And that is where I like to think of it, that's where the kind of magic happens, isn't it? Because when you can show that to other people, then you are opening it up, aren't you, for other people to then go, oh, Trish has done it, I can do it too. And that's probably, I would imagine, is where a lot of your work stems from, does it? That you're going, I'm doing this, everyone else can too.
It is. And it, like, brave is the word, courage. I mean, it is putting yourself out there to say, kind of go against the grain of, like you said, what we've been taught. And I think just by doing that, what I came to realize is we're living in this myth of perfection, and so that is why we've been afraid to share what's really going on. When somebody asks you, how are you doing today? Oh, I'm good, I'm fine. And sometimes I got even to the point where that's the standard answer. That's not the real answer. But people ready to hold the real answer? And a lot of times we're not looking for the real answer. It's just more of a formality or a nicety to ask. And we've been just conditioned or programmed. We're on autopilot when we're asking somebody, how are they doing? If somebody gives us the real answer, maybe we're not ready for that. So this, doing this going back and returning to self and kind of facing those truths has helped me to be able to hold the real answer for myself and for others. And that is why it helps us to improve our relationships and the dynamics that we have with each other when we can find that connection with ourselves. And that's why I feel like it's so important, and that we don't have to keep doing things the way we've always done things. There's a better, more fulfilling way, and that's love for ourselves.
And I think that's the key, isn't it? Actually recognizing that we don't have to carry on doing the same things, because I know for myself it took me a long time to realize that actually I can change. Actually, it is okay to do things in a different way. And maybe there was some kind of misplaced loyalty or something, I don't know what it was, but thinking that I can't break that mold, if you like. So it's really it's freeing, isn't it? It takes a lot, and sometimes it can be painful, but it is freeing, isn't it, to actually maybe experiment with other ways. And that's what I encourage people to do. Find your own way, because we're all unique and we're all different, aren't we? So you mentioned earlier that you've written a book, published a book, which is so exciting, isn't it? So would you like to tell everyone about your book and what it's about, what it's called?
It's called Love Me, Awakening to Healing, Self-Love, and Liberation. And again, it's really about my journey of remembering who I am and to let go of living to others' expectations. You mentioned expectations earlier, and I really realized at the end of this relationship that I mentioned earlier that I was living my life for everybody else. Like, I was checking all the boxes and checking every box but my own. And again, showing up a way that wasn't my whole self, because I thought oh, maybe if I just do this, then it'll work, or this will be better if I show up this way, and maybe I can, concede a little bit. And I felt like I was always, again, shaving off parts of myself. And then when we do that, we're not in our wholeness, we're not in our authenticity, and it never ends well.
No, you're right, it doesn't. Yeah.
So, I knew that there was something deeper. I knew that there was something deeper behind it. There always is. And so that's why I decided to look at that truth. Like I said, go back to my childhood and uncover what the wounds were that were driving this way of being, that shaped this way of being, and that taught me to, and I'm not saying directly taught, or it's any, to put blame on anybody. It's like we come in and we know what our soul has a journey to take, and our soul knows that journey. And then we forget, and we become maybe somebody that feels that love and feels accepted. And so for me, this journey, I realized, I connected all the dots. Oh, this makes so much sense now, why I'm this way, why it went from childhood into adulthood, and almost like this invisibility, I made myself smaller, because I knew that was how I would fit in. And I think a lot of us can relate to that. That's why sharing our story is so important, because we're like, oh my God, when we hear people share their story, we're like, I can so relate to that. So, it might not be exactly everyone's life path is different, but I'm sure people will find parallels in me sharing my story. I share it in poetry. So there's a lot from a raw, wounded perspective. And then there's some you'll see as you go on the journey, as you read the journey or take the journey with me through the book, there's a more healed lens as well. And I share those insights and it's in wholeness. It's unlearning conditioning from growing up, and then realizing we don't have to keep things the way they always have been, whether that's family patterns or our society, or how we show up in relationship.
Yes. There's so much that you've said there, Trish, that I'm sure people listening will go, oh yes, I can relate. And it is wonderful that you express it so beautifully. And you have written this book, because again, people can, like you say, read this and really learn a lot from it, can't they? And you mentioned that you started off by writing poetry, and again, I imagine, I've read some of your poetry, it's beautiful, and you're an artist as well, aren't you? You paint, don't you, as well? So I imagine, and correct me if I'm wrong, but all of this is very therapeutic, is it, to get things out?
It is.
In all your different shapes and forms. It's a good way to do it, isn't it?
It is. And like I touched on briefly earlier, we're so conditioned to stuff everything down and suppress it. And so for me, without even realizing it intentionally, I just naturally went to writing, and just writing what I was expressing. And it came, sometimes it's not even me, it's just being channeled. I feel, I don't know if you can relate, and I'm sure you can, but and then the art, I do painting on canvas, and that was something I uncovered again or rediscovered in the process, because I did that when I was maybe in my early 20s, and then kind of put that on the back burner, and then just came back to that. And it's been just another way to express feelings inside. And what I've learned and through this process is, our body holds a lot. That's why I've Reiki has come into my path, because that energetic releasing of the energy, because everything we go through in life, we store those experiences, the energy of that in our body, as you know. And so we're literally weighing ourselves down with that. And that Reiki part of the work that I do helps facilitate the healing process. It did for myself. And that's, like you said, we want to share what's worked for us and our own experience. And there's nothing better than lived experience. You can't learn this in a book. And
no. I think that's where people can feel very much that they will relate to you so much, because you are speaking from your heart, you're speaking from your truth, aren't you? And I think people need that, don't they? They connect with you in that way, because if you're just talking about it as a theory, it just doesn't cut it, does it? So
no, it doesn't.
It doesn't work. So you're speaking from the heart, and you always, every time I listen to you, I go, oh yes, so I really feel it. So you've mentioned about obviously your artwork and your book and everything. Can people work with you? Do you work one-to-one with people? Do you do group workshops, that kind of thing? How can people work with you?
Yeah, I have, I do one-on-one work with individuals, and I have done group workshops. So that's also an offering. And I'm really using this now as this love, coming back to self-love is the foundation for just our way of being.
Yeah.
And so, and again, incorporating that process of Reiki and then the healing support, because things come up and they come up that they might be uncomfortable, and we need support in unpacking those.
Yeah.
And that's always part of the process. It's never an easy path when you're working on focused on your healing. And that's why it's good to have people to support you, and especially somebody who's experienced that and knows and is, in a safe space. So but where I'm taking this in the future is back into the corporate world. I want to do this work in groups and teams, because I feel like that is a space that could use healing. And it's just this has just become such, it started as a book, as a title, Love Me, and now it's becoming so much bigger. And I've been wanting to do this work for so long, and now it's come together under this message. And there's nothing greater than loving ourselves. I mean, that is the foundation in that personal relationship we have with ourselves. So that's
brilliant.
Yeah.
I think it'd be wonderful to get this into like corporate, like you say, because again, where you said earlier about we try and fit in all the time. I think no more than in the workplace we do that, don't we? We try and fit in, because it's so important sometimes, isn't it? Finding out how we fit in, how we progress, and how we keep our jobs, if you like.
Right.
So we do that. And in the workplace, we do need to express ourselves, don't we? And sometimes that isn't possible. So to take this, it's taken on a sort of life of its own, isn't it? It's growing and it's going into places. So it's wonderful that you'll be able to share that with everyone. And just so that people understand, obviously we're in different countries, but everything you do can be done remotely, can't it?
Yes, I do. All my work, especially now because of the times that we're in, has been virtual. So it's that, and I mean, and that's kind of the beauty of it, because we're global, and we're all connected in that way. So, and the work, the support, the Reiki, all of that works at a distance anyways.
Wonderful. So we can, I always say it works through the ether, doesn't it? So,
it does work through the ether.
There is no limit where anybody is that they can contact you and find out more about what you do. So would you like to tell everyone you've got a website? Where can people find you, and where can people find out more about what you do and everything you offer?
People can find me on our new app, the KS Media Group app, and they can find me under directories and influencers, and all the ways to connect with me through Reiki and my transformational support and all of my artwork, and of course the book. And there's a merch shop there too, because this is again expanding and just spreading the message of love in that way. And that's all connected to, I have a website as well, InVibe, www.invibe.ca, and you can contact me there. I'm on Instagram quite frequently too. That's where I operate.
Yeah, I see you on there. I did a lovely meditation of yours the other day, yesterday actually, I think it was, that I found on Instagram. I came across it, and it's just so beautiful, isn't it? So lots of places you can find you. Like you say, the KS Media Group app is a wonderful place. We are both on there, aren't we?
Yes.
And lots of other people. There's tons of valuable information on there, isn't there? So anybody that hasn't already, go and download the app, KS Media Group app. And also InVibe is your business name, is it, Trish?
Yes, it is. It is.
So we can find you on that as well, which is wonderful.
Yes. And I also wanted to mention, about our app. There's just so much there for people to have everything they need to live their best life, to heal, for their expansion and ascension. We have all of our podcasts are there. Yes, this podcast is there.
Yes.
So it's, I forgot to mention, I am a co-host on a podcast called The Shift. That is also through our Cornelia Stephanie Media Group, with my co-host Diane McClay.
Yes, that is
another rock star in our group. So I'm so fortunate to have found my people in this group, and we are all collaborating and building this new way of working together and creating such a more beautiful world.
Yes, it is co-creating, I think is what people are
Yes.
saying, isn't it? Which is
Yes,
what it is, isn't it?
it
It's
is.
wonderful. And anyone can be a part of that, can't they? So download
Yes.
the app and get involved, which is wonderful. Now, I'd just like to bring you back to, there's a little phrase that I can never remember that you say about your title for your book, Love
Oh,
Me. Can you remind me what that is and share it with everyone? Because
yeah.
it's so
So
beautiful,
I'll
isn't
hold
it?
it up again. Love
Yes.
Me. And this is, this was my working title, but it just stayed the title. And because it represents, Love Me is about first a plea for love and acceptance. And then it's the journey to becoming a declaration that I love me. And now it's in I love me means that I can operate from that true, authentic place of love. So love me has now become my phrase of love me, love you, love us, because that's what this is all about, loving ourselves first, then we can love each other better. And it really does work that way. And that's what I want to help people find for themselves if they're ready to do that.
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful. And I think, like you say, you've got merchandise as well. I've seen T-shirts and mugs and
Yeah.
everything. And it's such a wonderful statement, isn't it? Because it can mean so many things, can't
It
it?
can,
So
yeah.
Love Me is just perfect. So if it was your working title and it stuck, then that was meant to be, wasn't it? So
Yes.
which is wonderful. So I like to ask everybody to share some words of wisdom, just so people can take away something from this podcast. You've given us tons. Is there anything you might like to repeat, or just a little phrase, or maybe just one word? Could be love me, couldn't it? But is there anything you'd just like to share with everybody, just so that they can take away something, some words of wisdom from you today?
Yeah, I would say that just always remember that our soul has a journey to take, and to allow it to not be afraid to be imperfect, to not be afraid to speak out and stand in your truth and find your voice, and to take the time to truly love yourself, find what brings you joy, find what fills you up, find what brings you peace, and do more of that.
Yeah, I love that. That's beautiful. That is a wonderful way to finish things, isn't it? Just find what you want to do and do it. Yeah, beautiful. Well, I'm sure everyone will want to get in touch with you, Trish, and talk to you a bit more and find out more about you. So you've given them lots of ways to do that. But I'd like to thank you today for taking this time to chat with me and share with everybody. So it's been a joy to chat to you. And at some point in time, I think you've got to come back and talk a bit more about how you're doing and how it's all going in the corporate world. So I'd like to invite you back at a later date. So, but for today, thank you so much. It's been lovely chatting to you.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you for listening to the Calmer Self podcast. Please rate and review. And if you want support, advice, accountability and inspiration to make the changes you need to manage your stress and live your life with ease and joy, check out the Calmer Self Facebook page. There's also more information on LinkedIn, Nadine award-winning changemaker. And please visit my website, www.calmerself.co.uk.